Hello, part two of growing up raised by a single parent. Then I find myself in those same footsteps. In part one, I told you a few things about my life as a child. I forgot to mention there were five of us that my mother had to feed and clothe by herself on one income, no child support. My father would come and visit us probably about once a year, and he would bring $50. $50, no shoes, no clothes, not even gifts for our birthday. I don't ever remember seeing receiving any gifts for our birthdays. Nothing. So when we first moved to New York, we stayed in a two-bedroom apartment. I forgot what floor. It was either Bronx or Brooklyn. I'm not really for sure. Well, we stayed in the two-bedroom apartment, but the thing about it is there was another family in the other bedroom. When my grandparents found out about that, it was a wrap. They said, no, 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 not these grandkids. My grandmother told my mother, when you get a bigger place, then you can send for these kids. You can come and get them, but ain't no need of moving us out of a big old three-bedroom house, front yard, backyard, a kitchen, a living room, a dining room, a basement, into a two-bedroom apartment, and we only had one. And I don't even think we could use. I remember my mother telling us a story. I remember living there. I remember the stories. I'm not the stories. Vaguely remember. My grandparents coming to get us or whatever. But my mother later on in years told us that she had problems with the lady anyway because she didn't want my mother cooking. She didn't want my mother doing certain things in the house. So when we came, it was a wrap. I'm glad we left. I'm so glad that I don't even think we played outside. We wasn't there long enough to do nothing. So then, like I said, we first moved there. We stayed in that one. So then, when my grandparents came and got us, we went back to Indiana. Then my mother either sent for us or she came and got us. I can't remember. Um, Took us back to New York. This time we stayed in a one bedroom, but it was an apartment and it was upstairs. We had to walk up all these steps and we stayed in a one bedroom, had a living room, and I vaguely remember a let out couch. I know we had a kitchen, bathroom, and we had it wasn't a balcony, it was a roof to the other people's apartment. And sometimes it would be so hot, my mother would let us sleep out there on the balcony. So we stayed there. Not for sure how long we stayed there, but then we ended up moving not too far from where that was at to another place. It still one bedroom, but it was a nice size. It was connected because somebody lived upstairs. Matter of fact, her name was, I think it was Miss Rita. I kind of vaguely remember her name, but it was so long time ago. So, but then we had a full basement because the boys stayed in the basement, and I think I might have stayed in the basement too because it was so big in the basement. My mother had us all beds and everything down there in the basement. So then we stayed. I'm trying. No, I'll take that back. We moved to a house. We moved to another house before we moved there to the basement thingamajigger. We stayed in a house, and uh, I don't. I don't remember how long we stayed at. Right, I don't can't remember how long we stayed there in the house, but it was Christmas time. I'll never forget. It was Christmas time, and my grandparents were there, and my grandfather was going in the basement to get something because my mother and grandmother were cooking. So my grandfather went in the basement to get something, but he was like, fire, fire. So that place caught on fire. So there we go. Had to move again. So that's the house that we moved into with the full basement or whatever. So we stayed there until like the early 70s. No, it was after 76. I'll put it to you like that. Because my grandfather died in 1975, 1976 time frame. So that's when we moved back to Indiana. And, we stayed there until we got older. So here we are again. So this is where the story begins. And that's going to be in part three.